Namatu Ratanatayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello, good evening, everyone. So today is Monday, the 16th of November, 2020. This is Achan Sujan from Varapunya Meditation Center, Aberdeen, Scotland. As usual, I'm here with you all tonight. And first of all, apologies for a little delay because something went wrong with my Facebook, and I was wondering what went wrong. And finally, after deleting 2 times of going online in a few seconds, I realized that it was private live, so that's why again managed to be in public. So apologies for that. Meanwhile, thank you everyone for joining with me tonight. Anish from Thailand, Jalanpon, Carina, Aberdeen, Manish, London, Margaret, and everyone, those who are joining with me tonight. So first of all, there was a question came about the emotional intelligence, that how does it works. And this is again sometimes I do have such experiences too. Yeah? There's no wrong with that at all. All what we need is to develop that emotional intelligence, rather than letting this emotional intelligence waiting for that to come. Whenever it arises, we need to appreciate that at that very moment. Meanwhile, it can be developed too. When we look at that closely, it is about the experience that we have in the past, and that's also coming from our called sanya, or the memories from the past. It's coming and triggering whenever something takes place, particularly the challenges or a very difficult situation we are in. At that time, somehow the inner intelligence, sometimes it is known as intuitive knowledge, just triggers to understand the situation and ability to deal with that situation. And oftentimes that intuitive awareness or intuitive wisdom that born out of this emotional intelligence always, most of the time, not always, most of the time appear to be the right one. So don't be disappointed and don't worry with that. It is okay to have it, and if possible we can develop it. What important is, whenever these triggers, rather than thinking that this is right and this is going to be, and sometimes it is going to be, and sometimes it is not. So whenever we have this gut feeling, we take it as some form of information that is, we believe that is true. And on the basis of that, we can take further cautious or decisions that brings the success and a happy life. Okay, and that's again, do not think that that's wrong. This is okay. The more you can develop those, the better it will be. And that's again, you can enhance through your practice of meditation too. With that practice of a meditation, and those intelligence will just grows, and ability to deal with different situation, and particularly when we have the difficult time, difficulties in our work, in our life, and in our basically every walks. And with all that emotional intelligence also help us to see other people in within us. Or there is a phrase saying, if you want to know others suffering, learn to wear their shoes. So that form of intelligent we become, and we become a more empathizer and more conscious about our own self. Okay, so that's why it's perfectly fine all on that emotional intelligent. So in the meantime, I was reflecting about the things that I have said and the things that I was talking about, and particularly on the dependent origination or the Paticca Samuppada. I've been talking so long, and occasionally I went off talking about different other subjects as it comes and just as the subject flows. And sometimes it's easy and other time feels a waste or a nonsense. You know? That's why you may have find sometimes I gave a title like a flirty monk. Yeah, flirty monk, like that. So, and other times it just goes along the flow, and as I have seen the people or as I have come across with the people, and I just reframe it into different stories, so that you will hear them and reflect them in your life. And today again, when I was just reflecting about it, because for the first time after this corona, all the monks were invited to have a lunch in one of the Chinese shop, Chinese restaurant called Manchuria. And it was nice. It's a different environment and different occasion, and then the etiquettes and the measures that you have to follow are so weird, but it was nice in different environments. And after that, again, we went to shopping for the DIY for the barn that we are working on, and then I was thinking about is that whenever we have a will to do something, at that time consciously we become so aware of that particular object or particular theme at all the time. And then when there is no will, if we don't have that will, then doesn't matter how big that subject is, doesn't matter how important and essential that topic is. Basically, we are not conscious about it at all. Like, let's say the coronavirus. Coronavirus is a real big story, and there are so many people neglected or being a negligence, and there is no will to protect themselves or their will to believe in it too. And as a result, they are doing such a nuance or such a nonsense that not following the guidance and the measures, and that's the reason why there is no conscious being not conscious about that situation. So that's why it simply comes under the teachings of the Buddha, saying that where there is a will, there is a consciousness, and without will, there would not be a consciousness. And here a will, according to the Buddha's teachings, is talking about the sankhara or the volitional action, so that we have this will to do something, we have a will to think something. At that time, consciously we become aware of that. Doesn't matter what, all what you need is the will. Even the English a proverb saying that where there is a will, there is a way. So like that, when there is a will, there is this consciousness, and that the will, according to Buddha's terminology, is called the sankhara or the volitional action. So that's why it means whenever we have a will, there is a purpose in it, and because of the purpose, we constantly thinking about it, and with that we become something. We become something. And that's why the consciousness is always there. And with the will, we are giving birth to the consciousness. As I said early on, sometimes in our life, something is very important, and yet we do not see any purpose on that, and we have no will to continue working on that. So we will not put any effort to do that. And because of that lack of effort and the lack of will, doesn't matter how essential is, we simply become we just put this under the carpet, and we simply take no notice about it. And with that, the consciousness is not born. But in the meantime, it doesn't matter how that is less usable or less essential, and yet we have a will to do, or will to have it. And then at that moment, what happens is that we become consciously aware of that at all the time. And that's how consciousness is born out of our will. Yeah? Consciousness born out of our will. And because of that will, we react something, and that's why it's called sankhara, the evolutional action. And here comes the karma, our action that we perform. Because of this will that we have in our life, in our minds, and become conscious, then we react to something to do, whether that is physically, or whether that is verbally, or whether that is mentally. Now, I've just heard the news saying that cabinet ministers in the UK, in London, have to go to quarantine, and that's simply because of one of the members in the meeting was tested positive, corona positive, and with that, and everyone are requested to quarantine. Yeah? And see here again, they know this corona, and yet there is no will, or there is this thought of a protection, but the measures should take a little bit more, but there is a lack of will to protect, and consciously they are unaware of that, and as a result they all got this measures to follow, quarantine, like that. Our action that defines how this consciousness, or how the tasks that we are focusing on becomes greater, and that's how it works. And this is what is talking about, that when there is a will, there is a consciousness. Without a will, there is no consciousness. And again, as I said previously, that there is no single cause for any other things to arise. According to Buddha's teachings, you have to have so many other factors to come together. And this is in terms of this, how we perform the will. It says that will, or the sankhara in an active sense, is the force that conditions. Yeah? So the first active sense of this will, it energizes us to push ourselves to work. It doesn't matter how hard that job is, doesn't matter how hard that the work would be, but you have this thriving force that will, I can do this. And this force pushes you to conditioning to make the success. Okay? And we become very conscious about it all the time. I remember in 2008, about 2008, when my visa extension was expired, that was like will to leave or will to stay. And I chose will to stay. Yeah? And then I thought to myself that leaving a country is my second choice, which I can leave at any time, and I have my own place to go and stay. But I had that will to stay, that made me some form of energy developed inside my mind and inside myself, and finding all possible ways to find the way to get the visa. So that's why, do not think that when trouble comes there is no other ways to handle it. Remember that when there is a trouble comes, whenever you have a difficulties, at that time this instinct, survival instinct that we have, it just triggers, and then the whole emotion and the whole brain begins to work so fast. Everything becomes active, and that is a force to push ourselves to work, to push ourselves to find the ways to be success. That's why they are saying that if you have a problem, there will be two options: one, fight or flight, and it's entirely up to each and individual that what you want to be. If you fight, then there is a possibility of a winning. And meanwhile, because of the will to fight, you have a lot of energies that's conditioning you to find the different ways and find the reasons to fight with it. Like I was listening one talk about on a TED talk about the ladies wearing a skirt, and if someone takes the picture, then that is, in the past, was not against the law, and the perpetrator is not punished. And a lady she was in a party, and someone took her picture under the skirt, and then she protested, and following that, she went on campaigning, and finally last year January she was able to change the law that if someone takes pictures under the skirt is against the law and can be punishable. So like that, before it was okay, but because of the problems she faced, she campaigned for about 2 years and finding so many ways, studying thoroughly about the laws and contacting the people, and then drafting the futures and drafting the laws, and find so many ways. If the problem wasn't there, and if she simply put under the carpet that trouble, then everything is gonna be silent. But she had a will to fight for it, and because of that will, she always conscious about it, and with that consciousness work on and finding so many doors and bringing into one and able to sort it out. So that sort of a thing is the active force that conditioned to change, conditioned to be, becoming one or another. And the second is a passive sense. In a way, will as a passive is basically what is thereby conditioned. So it's already existed, that, and that's our sometimes it's like an emotional intelligence. It's already there. It's already conditioned. Whenever the situation takes place, then it just comes together. It just happens like that, and then our previously accumulated all those experiences, whether in this life or in the previous lives that we have come across with some similar situations, then this is just already conditioned that in this case, if this is happening, I am going to be reacting this way, or this is the right solution, like that. Okay, so that's why it is very important to understand that our consciousness is like a seed that we are preserving all the information, and our action is like a field that we have the land to cultivate, and because of this field that we have, and we have this will or a craving, yeah, born out of this ignorance, this craving musters this consciousness to be alive and to become. And as long as we have to come back into this samsara, in this cycle of a birth and a death, it is inevitable that those saved, consciously aware of those solutions will not come. So it will come whenever the conditions just come together, whenever the condition just matches or tunes in. Yeah? And that is why it's up to us to make it better or worse. And all that good, wholesome deeds that we are accumulating while we are conscious is basically, it's saving inside our consciousness as a seed which is lying there. And this seed only sprouts when it is not broken, when it is rightly sown on the cultivatable field. But if that seed is not in that conditioning, the right condition place, then seed would not sprout. Similarly, whatever is saved, whenever the situation comes, condition arises, and at that time, we will be able to see that our subconsciously saved memories are start to work, and then suddenly, like that. So this emotional intelligence just triggers, and then we will be able to sort out some of the difficulties. But again, it is not at all, we cannot take it as at all the time. If we are relying on and always relying on, then what happens is we are unable to make decisions on certain things that we think is right. So we can have them, but we shouldn't be attached to it or waiting for that moments to happen. Okay, this is a very important one. But anyhow, the consciously saved memories will just sprout when the condition is conducive, and then at that moment, then the consciousness will be come. And there is a particular one passage that I wrote before this come down to the talk. The passage, the Buddha said that for beings hindered by ignorance and feathered by craving, karma is the field, consciousness the seed, and craving the moisture for their consciousness to be established in the realms. And here, realms is talking about the three realms, okay? Three realms according to the Buddhism. And in this way, there is the production of a renewed existence in the future. So that's why, on the basis of these teachings of the Buddha, doesn't matter where we born in, where we will be reborning again, or even in the future if we are coming back to reborn as a human beings, and then when the condition comes together, at that time our intuitive awareness just works, and this consciousness, this subconsciously saved memory just works to make it happen. And understand that, this is, and that's how we can solve the problems. Okay, so tonight I simply extended from the question that I was asked about the emotional intelligence on in the base of the what it says, where there is a will, there is a consciousness. Without will, there would be no consciousness. And obviously consciousness itself is the seed, but seed alone doesn't work, and our action does. Okay, so I end here tonight's talk, reflection, and thank you everyone for joining me, and may you all be well and happy, stay safe and take care. May the Buddha Dhamma Sangha bless you. In a few moments time, we're going to have the evening chanting and guided meditation. So See you shortly and take care. If not joining, good night. Satu.